Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and today Blizzard released on the Shadowlands Alpha the introductory experience to the Shadowlands expansion. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to see any of the starting quest experience, you're more than welcome to skip out on this video if you want to be surprised for yourself. But if you're someone who's interested in what the experience is going to be like, we're just watching most of the gameplay without really explaining every bit of detail of the story, but rather enjoying the experience for what it is, stick around. It'll start out at the very beginning. When you make a character in the alpha, it throws you at front of the gates of ICC, where the Alliance and Horde members, however not the leaders, are, surrounded by Death Knights and Bolvar himself, and the actual Helmet of Domination, which is the helm that Lich King, the Arthas King himself, wore, is now broken into multiple pieces, and we have to use it in order to enter the Maw, where Sylvanas have escaped to. And this experience absolutely looks fantastic. It gives you a lot of this Maw vibes, or more the Tower of Torghast vibes, and it does show that the Maw is actually going to be an area that you will get to at some point explore. You also will notice that Kali Menethil is there to represent the Horde Forsaken, so it does seem like maybe she'll be the leader of the Horde. And also Valeera does stand with the Horde as well instead of the Alliance. An interesting choice. Anyway, at the beginning of the quest, you're going to start by opening a gateway into the Maw. You have to extend the parts of the Helm of the Domination to a couple of the DK ritualists in order to enter there. This opens a gateway at your feet, sucking in everybody around you into the Maw. So you venture off with the heroes of Alliance and Horde, as well with an army of Death Knights under Bolvar's command, into the Maw itself. The Maw is a place where the worst of the worst, the irredeemable souls that never could get a second chance, go to. And the zone really does look really inhospitable, but it also looks very fantasy, very kind of dread wastes, with a bit of these blue crystals everywhere. You have spirits, you have shambling walking armor, you have a variety of elementals, massive structures that resemble kind of like an upside down world of ICC. From what we've seen of the Maw has been mostly through Torghast, but it's cool to see that this place actually does have an environment. And for the longest time I thought that the Maw would just be a place we would never actually visit, maybe for certain quests, but it does seem that maybe this could be a max level area for us to explore. And I think Blizzard said that the Maw, the longer you stay in the Maw, the harder the enemies get, and things will start trying to chase you out of there until to the point where you cannot stay there any longer. So I do wonder what kind of end game content we'll be able to do here. But anyway, on with our quest. We help the Death Knights regroup, trying to kind of figure out what's going on in the Maw and catch up with a couple of the heroes of Alliance/Horde to find out what is this place with a bit of exposition. The next few quests are pretty straightforward. Go over there, kill some things, loot some things, free some dudes. But for the most part, it really does try to establish the lore behind the whole Maw, the Shadowlands, the Jailer, Sylvanas heading in here, and even using a Death Knight like Morgraine to kind of punish a lost spirit inside of the Maw in order to gain information of how to escape this place. But for the most part, it's just Blizzard really going through mini like in-game cutscenes in order to show off some of the different events of the Maw and Shadowlands, the whole purpose of it being here, and give a lot of exposition for, I guess, some of the new players. However, most of us in the alpha more or less have played through so many different quests on the alpha that most of the story is kind of fairly well put together. But it is nice that Blizzard is using a lot of these tools in order to create like stories for us to kind of enjoy instead of just read about through quest lines. The rest of the time in the Maw, you're fighting through enemies and trying to rescue the leaders of Alliance and Horde. Even Anduin somehow finds his way into the Maw. Taunted by Sylvanas, you are to free him as well as Bane in order to try to see if you can regroup the forces of Alliance and Horde against this brand new threat of the Maw, the Jailer, as well as all the things that are going to be chasing you in the afterlife. I cannot talk enough about how amazing the environment for this place looks. It just looks absolutely desolate, and it's exactly what I wanted for the Maw to be. We've only seen parts of the Maw through Torghast, to kind of like look it through, you know, top of the levels, downwards, and around the environment. But when you combine all this together, the chains that are just scattered everywhere, you have certain areas lit with candles, you have souls everywhere, begging for help, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. The enemy designs looks awesome as they're just walking shambling armor, and it really does kind of, as you play through the quest, build up this threat of, man, the Maw is massive. The Jailer has this massive army surrounding us on all sides. We're no longer in Azeroth, we're in a whole nother plane. And that's something you never really pay attention to when it comes to the environment. Most people play the game for like the gear, the loot, the item level, and the most amount of bursts in PvP. But on the alpha right now, we get the chance to play through the experience and really enjoy for the story, the environment, and the lack of music too. I'm really hoping this place has an amazing soundtrack because it looks absolutely fantastic. And to shake things up a bit even more than exploring the new Maw, somebody from Legion arrives into this dreaded place, and it's no other than Helya. Some of you are probably wondering, why is Helya in the Maw? I was thinking the exact same thing. I have no idea, at least at first I didn't, but she did have this whole thing with Sylvanas, some sort of a deal, and now Helya is here. If Sylvanas did get the good graces of the Jailer, who is the leader of the Maw, then Helya probably has some extra from the Jailer himself as well through Sylvanas. At least that would be my guess. So are we to expect for Helya to come back as a boss for like a Maw raid or something? Who knows? For now, it's all a mystery. But she tosses you off a bridge and you go through this interesting sequence of kind of like souls being washed away, trying to find safe harbor. It's all kind of interesting, but also confusing. But it's interesting how they're going to add elements of Legion and characters of Legion into this expansion. And then you see him. There he is, at the top of the tower, the Jailer himself overseeing the Maw's domain. And in a scene that isn't finished on the alpha, he throws Bane off of a tower, and you're now tasked to save Bane Bloodhoof from his soul being given to the Jailer himself. The NPCs still do this weird thing that's added on the alpha where they look at you when you get near them, and it's a little bit less convincing with Bane laying on the ground and suffering. You walk up next to him and he's like, huh, what's up? It's a little weird, so hopefully Blizzard fixes it. But then you're tasked to find some weapons and defeat some enemies in order to try to perform a ritual to see if you can save Bane. After helping Bane out and rescuing him from the Maw, you're still stuck. You, Jaina, Thrall, Anduin, and Bane are still trying to find a way to escape out of this wretched place. Jaina pops mass invisibility, and you get to explore the vast, massive army that is under the Jailer's command. The amount of monstrosities and enemies that are apparently crafted from the souls sent to the Maw, which are in billions, as the way that Blizzard described is Sylvanas, the attack on the Teldrassil, and every other conflict, for some reason, the machine of life and death hasn't been working properly. Instead of sending spirits to the proper areas of Revendreth, Ardenwald, Maldraxxus, as well as Bastion, instead everybody has been sent to the Maw and turned into living weapons for the Jailer himself. So with that kind of setup, you really do get to see the magnanimous army. To escape this hellish landscape, you tortured a soul with Morgraine to find that there is a waystone somewhere in the Maw, and you're going to be using that to hopefully escape out of this place. When your party reaches the waystone, it kind of activates. It senses a presence, and no other than the player's character. It reacts to your presence. And this is kind of the name Maw Walker comes from, where all the characters, instead of calling you champion, the hero, instead they all call you the Maw Walker, someone who can venture into the Maw and even return from the Maw where no one ever else have been able to. It's a cool piece of story that Blizzard is trying to write in this expansion as some brand new story. And I really do hope it really has some sort of a meaningful ending to it all in terms of the Maw Walker and the reason as to why you are able to go into the Maw. But it's perfect opportunity and perfect potential for Blizzard to really showcase some of the best writing, and I really hope they do a good job in this expansion. Upon activating the Waystone, you are surrounded with the armies and armies of Jailer himself. Surrounded, trying to fight your way until the Waystone charges up, so your party might have a chance of escaping. As the gateway is about to be charged up, the army of the Jailer really does rise up, and you're surrounded on all fronts, death angels flying in the air, monstrosities closing in, the army ready to obliterate you, and the jailer himself is present. And I think they did such a good job trying to put this, I guess, the big bad villain of the next expansion just kind of up front, just trying to chase you down. It's really cool and exciting and interesting, not because it's a new MMO, but also the potential you could have for this guy as like the big bad villain. Anyway, you escape through the Waygate, the rest of the party stays in the Maw, and I think that kind of sets up the whole Shadowlands experience. Ally yourself with one of the Covenants, fight your way back into the Maw, rescue everybody that's trapped in there, maybe even some lost souls that are not supposed to go there, and right the wrongs that happen in Shadowlands, and potentially take out Sylvanas at the end, and even the jailer. But right now, that's about all we have. After this, you're transported to Oribos, and that's kind of where the quest does not continue. It seems to be bugged and maybe unfinished, but you're just surrounded by a bunch of guards that are looking menacingly at you, but they don't really do anything. The guards are aligned in a way that makes you go into one of the rooms. There's a bunch of observers there looking at you, but they don't have a quest for you either. I don't really know if after that whole event, it's supposed to send you straight to Bastion or Oribos or whatever it may be, but I think this would actually connect properly with Bastion, because when you go to Bastion, there's a Kyrian lady, and she's like, "Oh, you're from the Maw. Wait, how'd you escape the Maw? There's so many questions. Let's take it to leadership." And it feels like that's kind of where the story would start, going from Bastion to Madraxus to then Ardenwald and then Revendreth, and sometimes there's an Oribos in between of it. But that's about all we have right now so far on the alpha. After this introduction, I really do want to see what are the extra cutscenes that Blizzard is going to add into the starting zone, as in into the introductory questline, some of the scenes that are missing, and some of the backstory, like why the hell is Helya here? I'd like to know more, because I feel like in Legion, they didn't really do a... Maybe there's somewhere out there that's like a written paragraph or a book or a story that explains it all, but I feel like they never really did a great job showing it in game as to how Helya is directly related to this place. But it's going to be really cool seeing some of the Legion characters from back in the day, Helya, Bwansamdi, and some of the other characters, maybe even in their afterlife forms, potentially. But so far, that was an awesome introductory for Shadowlands. I definitely know it's not finished, but it was really cool to be able to test it. It seems to work out just fine. It's just missing the music for the Maw. It's missing a little bit of the dialogue. Some of the voices are present, but not all of them. But overall, this does look quite good. This actually makes me even more excited for Shadowlands, not just from like PvP-oriented perspective, dungeons and raiding perspective, but just like someone who likes playing World of Warcraft, some of the lore elements of it, some of the aspects of it that I just enjoy and like, and you know, all the other reasons that all of us play World of Warcraft for one reason or another. But this was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot. So you guys let me know in the comments below too if you like this introduction. Do you think something else could be done a little bit differently? This is the perfect time to leave your opinions and thoughts about stuff, because Blizzard is listening. They're making a lot of changes all the time. What did you think about it? Did you think it was cool? What did you think about the Maw? What do you think about the Jailer so far? Does it look exciting, or does it look kind of meh to you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.